As promised, here we are today with the Umbreon follow-up video. Today we're going to be testing the Mean Look Umbreon in the RU tier. I decided to use the Taunt variety for today's video, but you could also use Foul Play in the last move slot. And my mentality in choosing the rest of the Pokemon for the team was, what does this Umbreon beat? How can I use this Umbreon to aid the rest of the members on my team? So, Pokemon that would beat that Mean Look Umbreon would beat would be like Melodic, would be Gastrodon, would be opposing Umbreon, things like that. And so I said, okay, Flygon struggles with bulky waters, struggles with Wheezing, Galarian Wheezing, it struggles with Umbreon. So why don't I put a Flygon on the team? And I just went with the Choice Scarf Flygon. Choice Scarf Flygon also gives me some form of speed control, which is nice. Choice Scarf Flygon is sort of a weird Pokemon. It used to be really good. Nowadays, there's so many good options to just straight up counter it. And I feel like Choice Scarf Flygon doesn't get as many opportunities to shine. So I'm not a big fan of it as I was maybe in Gen 6. But it still is a decent speed tier to hit and can be useful in a lot of situations. So it's nice to have around. Next up, we're going to go with Metagross, another Pokemon that doesn't like bulky waters or Umbreon. And this is just going to be a support Metagross. I wanted to have this be my Stealth Rocker. And I didn't make the set for this Metagross until I had the rest of the team all situated. But I wanted to have something that could quick Stealth Rock, something that could resist some Fairy type moves, which the Umbreon doesn't like. So that's what we went with Metagross here. Wheezing is a good defensive pivot. Umbreon is good for Spadef, but it doesn't even have Foul Play, so I needed something that could switch into Pokemon like Heracross, and Wheezing fits that bill perfectly. And this is just the standard Wheezing. It gives us Defog support as well, and we will definitely take that. I'm going to double up on my fairies and go with Togekiss. It also helps with Pokemon like Heracross, and it gives me Heal Bell support. Since my Umbreon is not running a Heal Bell moveset, this will allow me to heal up a Flygon or a Metagross if they get burned, or it'll allow me to wake up a sleeping Umbreon. So those are just some options that I have. Maybe doubling up on the fairies isn't the greatest idea for this team. Maybe I should have just gone with one or the other, and then maybe had a different Pokemon that would had more value. So I'm not entirely sold on this particular setup, but that was just sort of my mentality going into that. Finally, I've got Raikou. Raikou is pretty fast, and I'm running choice specs on this one. I could have run a Calm Mind set, but usually I like to be able to pivot with Raikou. However, it is a little bit annoying to be locked in. The reason we went with choice specs is because it gives me some form of immediate power. Because Raikou only has 115 special attack, which at the end of the day isn't like fantastic for what you would expect from a legendary Pokemon. And so he really needs to have that little extra oomph with the choice specs or maybe a Calm Mind set in order to actually get going and doing anything. And so I decided to go with the choice spec set because I'd rather have Volt Switch on my Raikou than have 3 attacks Calm Mind. That was just my thinking there. Again, this could be changed perhaps to even be, expert belts just so it can switch up moves, because switching up moves is so valuable in this tier. Anyway, that's the team, and we're going to try to see if Mean Look Umbreon actually can put in work. So in today's first battle, we're facing off against a meme team. This is one of those teams that new players will often get beat by because there's so many Pokemon that you don't usually see, and Pokemon strategies that aren't usually employed by good players because they're really memey. However, they make for good YouTube videos, I suppose, and also it makes people feel good about themselves when they can beat you with quote-unquote bad Pokemon. But at the end of the day, it's just a different strategy employed by people. If it wins, it wins. If it doesn't win, well then, it's not very good. So we're going to see how this player plays. Looking at his team, first of all, I noticed they have no ground type, no electric immunity whatsoever. So Raikou has a field day against my opponent's team. It's just not even a question. However, I want to lead off with Wheezing. And the reason I want to lead off with Wheezing is because they're going to have Sticky Web on Slurpuff. So I'm going to actually burn the Slurpuff. I don't know if it's a physical or a special set. It may have Endeavor, but I just want to get off the Sticky Web off the field as quickly as I can. But unfortunately they have Yawn, so I'm going to have to switch out. I'm going to Raikou because, like I said, that's uncontested. Here I figured they might switch rather than stay in. I'm going to Volt Switch out. I'm actually going to go into Flygon just in case they have some kind of Pinch Berry here or something. I don't see them get Citrus Berry after my Volt Switch, so I'm not sure what it is. It may just be Focus Sash, in which case they won't ever get their Unburden, which is fine by me. But Focus Sash is sort of a dumb Unburden set, in my personal opinion, on Slurpuff, just because unless it's a Steel-type move, usually Slurpuff doesn't go down with its Focus Sash. I would have expected a Citrus Berry. Maybe it's a Pinch Berry, though, and I want to be able to maybe have a chance of outspeeding it, so I'm going to go into Flygon. I don't see anything, though, here. And so I'm going to be able to outspeed it, and I'm going to kill it off with Earthquake. I can deal with the Sticky Web against the rest of these memes. And he actually aids me by going into Malamar. Malamar invites in Weezing because Weezing does not care about Malamar. Now let's talk about this real fast. Malamar is a Dark type. I am a Fairy type. That clearly is a bad type matchup. Of course, you are Psychic and I'm Poison, so it could be argued that it's a 50-50. But if this is a normal Malamar that wants to run Superpower with Contrary, then I'm not going to care at all about your Superpower because I am a Fairy and a Poison type and not 4 times resist Superpower. And a lot of Malamars only carry Knockoff and Superpower. So I don't care about that, right? Unless this is the rare Psycho Cutter, it's probably not going to be able to touch me. Second of all, Superpower with Contrary gets a +1 attack and +1 defense boost. But because I have Neutralizing Gas, Contrary is no longer going to work, and you'll actually get drops instead of boosts. So Weezing almost always beats Malamar 1v1, and I can bring it in pretty safely. And because Malamar chose to come in, that actually allows me to come in and get a safe defog off. So let's note that on turn 6, the Malamar actually went for block, which means now I'm trapped in here. But really, they're trapped with me, and they just don't realize it yet. So they're going to start going for Acupressure nonsense. And this Acupressure Rest set is sometimes seen on Drapion. Drapion is a better user of it because it has Battle Armor, and so you can never get crit. So once Drapion gets set up to +6 in a stat, you can't break Drapion. It's really impossible. But Malamar has the added benefit of being able to go for its own independent boosts with Superpower, and that's about as far as Malamar goes. Otherwise, it's clearly inferior to Drapion. Anyway, I'm going to just get off a default. I don't even care about this doing this Acupressure nonsense. But at this point, I decide better kill it before it gets out of hand. Strange Steam does over half, and I get a Confusion, which is nice. At this point, they're going to have to rest, but I'm just going to go for Strange Steam again. They're going to realize finally this is not working out for them, and they're going to switch into their Incineroar. Incineroar is going to take a healthy chunk, which means it's not defensive, but we shouldn't expect it to be. I'm going to switch out here and go into Flygon in case they go for a fire move. They do go for a fire move, it's Flame Charge. At this point, I expect them to go into Crobat, since Crobat is one of the premier Flygon answers, but they don't. They decide they want to lose their Incineroar. So I'm going to go into Togekiss, because this is a Power Trip set, and so I don't want to take Power Trip, and I'm just going to Air Slash it to death. I'm going to see here the Power Trip at this point does nothing, and so at this point my opponent decides that they've actually run into a competent player, and so they're going to forfeit. Could, gloat about a 6-0, but that would be sort of embarrassing to do that because that wasn't really much of a battle. But this is just one of those battles that's good to show so that newer players that maybe aren't as familiar with Pokemon sort of see which Pokemon in the tier are meant to deal with certain niche or weird threats. Now, one of the reasons we let off with Weezing in this game was because the Cottony is level 1. Level 1 Cottony can be really annoying because they can heal up with Leech Seed and Endeavor and things like that. So by Will-O-Wisping it turn 1, I would get off a little bit of chip so it can't have a Focus Sash attack, and then I can attack at turn 2. And even if my Weezing gets Endeavored, that's pretty bad because it's a really good Pokemon for a lot of things on the team. And maybe I could have let off with Metagross instead in that case, and that would have been a better lead. But that was just one way I had of dealing with Cottony. So yeah, maybe Metagross would have been a better play, I don't know. Anyway, weird first game. Let's hope we get some more real teams after this. Alright, game 2 is against a team that actually looks like I can put in a lot of work against it. With my Umbreon, they've got a Chandelure, which this particular version of Umbreon does not beat Chandelure because it has no attacking moves. so it can't really touch Chandelure. Chandelure won't be blocked in, and it's going to be doing too much damage to Spite off. But it has Reuniclus, which is good, and it has Glare and Wheezing. So we're going to see if we can get our Umbreon to put in work. So right off the bat, we're going to lead off with Raikou here. Raikou leads off well against any member on their team, right? It leads off well against Golisopod, even against Chandelure to an extent. Wheezing, Xurkitree, if it's Choice Scarfed, I'll find that out because it'll outspeed me, otherwise I'll outspeed it. And it doesn't really touch me that well, so that makes it a good lead against Xurkitree as well. Reuniclus, I can scout its set, and if to lead Flygon, I can always go into my Wheezing or into my Togekiss, and so Flygon doesn't really do too much against my team as it currently stands. So that's good. They actually lead off with the Xurkitree. I'm going to just click Scald here. If they want to go into Flygon, that will be good for me, and if they stay in, then I will get off more than I would with Thunderbolt. So I click Scald. They're not Choice Scarf, so they're probably just Heavy Duty Boots. No burn, but that doesn't really matter. And they go into Flygon. Here I'm going to go into my Togekiss, and they predict that and go for Stone Edge. Good play, I guess, that's fine, but now I can easily go into my own Flygon, and they can't touch me, so now they're forced to switch out. And because I know that they're forced to switch out, and Weezing's such an obvious switch in, I'm going to U-turn out. Now I get to bring back my Choice Specs Raikou. They know I'm going to click Scald. I'm going to go for an electric move and get off a lot of damage. They could have gone for Strange Steam there, probably should have, but I'm immune to Sludge Bomb. And they're going to actually sack their Weezing to the Meteor Mash. Flygon comes out again. They're going to Togekiss. They're not going to click Stone Edge again. They saw that it did not work out for them. I'm going to Roost off here. Now at this point I need to scout the Reuniclus, see what kind of Reuniclus it is. I'm going to go into Raikou. They're actually going to click Knock Off, which tells me that they're almost certainly Assault Vest. And then this damage tells me definitely Assault Vest. So I know Umbreon 100% beats Assault Vest sets. So I'm going to block them here. They're going to go for Future Sight. They actually get a Spadef drop, which is going to be very scary for me. But I've committed to this path. I'm going to Spite here first, and they hit another one. And it almost kills, but it does not kill. So I'm going to have to rest off here and hope they don't hit the rest of their Focus Blasts. And so here they click Knock Off, which is a bad play on their part because they should have been hitting Focus Blasts while I was asleep. They missed one right there. And that basically means that this Reuniclus is dead. This one here hits, they do not get another drop or a crit, and so I win against this Reuniclus. At this point, the Reuniclus, you can scroll over, you can see it has no more Focus Blasts. Will be Knock Off, Future Sight, and then probably either Shadow Ball or some Psychic move. It turns out to be, I believe, Psyshock. So I'm just going to Spite them down. We're going to rest occasionally. We want to make sure we don't waste too many Spites on things that only have like 1 or 2 PP left. So we're just going to taunt them to try to get them to use the rest of those moves. And then eventually they'll be going for Psyshock. And at the point where they run out, then they're going to start struggling. And I'm going to rest at the point where I will wake up once they're done struggling, right? So I go to rest, I go to sleep here, and then they go for struggle twice while I'm asleep. So that I'm still asleep when they kill themselves, but I'll immediately wake up the next turn. So that's about as good as this Umbreon could have done. Here I'm going to switch out because first impression is very obvious. Go to Togekiss. Now at this point, I'm a Togekiss. You shouldn't stay in. You should go into Xurkitree or anything really. But they don't. They decide to stay in and get up a Spike, which I guess that's fine. Now they're forced to switch out. If I'd have gone for Flamethrower again, maybe I could have killed them and then they wouldn't have been able to switch back in. So that could have been a thing. I'm going to go into Xurkitree. I'm just going to sack my Umbreon to any Spatak hits. I'm going to go for Spite in case they decided to go for first impression here and I lived somehow. This is where I start misplaying a bit. It doesn't really mean too much because spikes are I mean look here. At this point Umbreon doesn't really do anything, and if I had had Foul Play it would have been a lot better, right? I could have just killed it on the wake up with Foul Play. So I think Foul Play would have been better there. Here I'm going to click Outrage. And I need to stop on this turn. So Outrage here, if you look at my opponent's team, they have absolutely no switch-ins to Outrage. So Outrage is a really free move for me to go to. But their own Flygon is Choice Scarfed, and they win the speed tie. So that means I lost my Choice Scarf Flygon because I lost the speed tie. So is it a bad play to go for Outrage when you outspeed everything on the opponent's team except for the speed tie with Flygon, and they have absolutely no switch-ins to Outrage. Well, since I lost the speed tie, it would seem that it's a bad play now, wouldn't it? A bit unfortunate. I didn't want to go for Earthquake because they could easily go Flygon on my Flygon, and I didn't want to go for a U-turn because if they decided to go into another Pokemon on my U-turn, it would be more of a passive play, whereas Outrage got me a kill, right? And so that was sort of what I was thinking there. I felt like they probably wanted to save Golisopod just because First Impression is such a valuable move, but apparently that was not what they were thinking, and so they decided to sack it. And then because I lost this speed tie here, I lost my Flygon. If I had won the speed tie there, the game was over. It was just a GG right there. It was a wrap. But because I lost the speed tie, I lose my Flygon. So now I can go into my Weezing. They're trapped in here because they're locked into Outrage, and I can go in and Strange Steam my opponent. And Strange Steam is actually going to miss. Great. So now the Flygon is free to switch out. I know they're not going to stay in, so I'm just going to get off a bit of chip with the Sludge Bomb on the Chandelure. And now I'm going to switch out because I need to save this. Togekiss is decently bulky, but not bulky enough to live Choice Spec Chandelure. However, Togekiss is base 80 speed, and so is Chandelure, so this is a speed tie. And I win the first speed tie, and I get a flinch. They switch out. As I go for another Air Slash, I cannot risk Flamethrower on the Xurkitree switch in. Going to go into Raikou because I don't want to give them a good time with the Beast Boost. I outspeed them, so if they had gone for an electric move, I would have been able to kill them in the next turn. However, they just Volt Switch out and they go into Flygon, and I have no switch in, so I have to sack it, unfortunately. I'm going to go Chandelure, and I know that I won the first speed tie. They may not want to risk that. I'm going to switch out again. I cannot predict there because, you know, if they decide to stay in and I go for Flamethrower, I'm going to look like an idiot, right? So that's not good. Unfortunately, Metagross isn't Choice Scarfed or anything, so I can't really do anything to the Chandelure. I must sack it again. At this point, they don't need their Chandelure, so they can risk the speed tie, and they win that speed tie. So I don't even have that bailing me out. At this point, the Xurkitree just won anyway, so it didn't really matter. Anyway, so we lose that game. Even though the Umbreon put in a crazy amount of work against the Reuniclus, the game was still lost because I lost the one speed tie, and then I also subsequently missed my Strange Steam. If I had won the speed tie, I won the game right there and there. But because you can see that my opponent only had one play after I had locked into Outrage, right? He knows that he cannot go into his Chandelure, it'll die. He can't go into the Xurkitree, it'll die. So he has to go into Flygon. He's forced in there. And the Flygon is going to be forced also to click Outrage. So I'm forcing the speed tie at that point. My opponent had no other choice. That's what they had to do. And because I'm forcing a speed tie, I allowed the game to go down to a 50-50. So that's a really bad play. I should have gone for U-turn. Even Stone Edge would have been a better play, just because at that point I could have switched out, right? And maybe not Stone Edge, but U-turn would have been a better play. Earthquake would have been a better play because I could have switched out. But instead I decided to force the 50-50 end game, which was a really bad play on my part. So I deserve that loss. Alright, in this next battle, we've got a pretty scary team. It's got Cloyster and Toxtricity, which are really quite strong, and Mimikyu, which can be strong depending on the team matchup, but not this team matchup. We've got Weezing, and Weezing means that Mimikyu can't do anything. And Celebi's there. If it has U-turn, I can't really trap it, so I don't really feel like I do too much against the Celebi, but we'll take note of that. And then the Registeel, which causes lots of problems for my team. Now, if the Registeel does not have Body Press, then the Umbreon will beat that, but we still have to scout first. One thing I do note is that my opponent has absolutely no electric resist once again, so Raikou is quite good against my opponent, and I'm going to lead off with it as a result. They're going to lead off with a Registeel. Now, Aura Sphere does not do even to a KO, so there's no reason for me to stay in. I'm going to go to Metagross, and actually going to click Toxic, which is really good for me. I'm just going to click Earthquake here. No reason to overpredict on turn 2. Here, they're going to go for Flamethrower. I just want to scout the Noivern set. I missed my Meteor Mash, so that's unfortunate. I'm not going to stay and take another Flamethrower. Flygon's going to come in, and now I'm going to U-turn out. They either switch out or they go for Draco Meteor. I'm going to go back into Metagross. Now that they're -2, their Flamethrower shouldn't do too much, so I'm going to go for another Meteor Mash. I want to get off some damage on this Noivern. They're going to U-turn out into Cloyster, and I once again missed Meteor Mash, so that's great. I needed to get damage off on this Cloyster because I don't want it to sweep my team. So, gonna stay in, just sack the Metagross, and if they don't have Liquidation, they don't really touch me anyway, but they do have Liquidation, which is not usually seen on Cloyster, so I go down. Weezing, however, is a good answer to Cloyster. Because neutralizing gas, they don't get 5 hits here. I'm physically defensive, and I'm able to take down the Cloyster. So it wasn't that big of a threat, but I need this Weezing for the Mimikyu still, so I didn't want to get damage off on it. At this point, Umbreon's not going to do too much, so I'm just going to click Spite here, get rid of a few Boom Burst PP, but that's about as far as the Umbreon can go. So we're going to sack the Umbreon so I can go safely to Flygon. No way they stay in. Obviously going to switch out. I'm going to turn out, and I'm going to go into my Togekiss, because Togekiss beats this Noivern 100% of the time. And I'm going to go for the Flamethrower, predicting the Registeel. Now they know I have a Flygon, so there's no way they're going to go for Overdrive. They're going to go for Boom Burst. I'm bulky enough that I can live that. And I'm going to go for Flamethrower again here. At this point, I'm going to go into my own Flygon. They're not going to Draco Meteor. And I'm going to Stone Edge here, because I don't want to lock myself into Outrage and die to Mimikyu. And so Stone Edge is going to kill it, since they clearly don't respect my Choice Scarf. I'm going to go into Weezing on the Mimikyu. Weezing is a good answer to Mimikyu. Means it can't do anything. And here I missed my Will-O-Wisp, so that's par for the course in this game. But at this point, either my opponent decides that they're not going to be able to beat me, or they feel bad for me for having missed so many moves, and so they decide to forfeit. So that was an interesting game. I showed the worth of Weezing for sure, but I feel like the Umbreon unfortunately couldn't really do anything in this game. If it had had foul play, it could have done something against the Cloyster, although Weezing still was better overall. And I would have been able to actually get damage off on the Toxtricity, which means the Toxtricity couldn't have safely switched in on my Togekiss going for Flamethrower. So I feel like having foul play there would have been better. However, if the Registeel had no body press, then Taunt would have probably been better in the end against the Registeel. I'm not really sure though. So, fine, I'll take that game. Wish I didn't miss quite so much, but just this entire time using this team, I missed so many Meteor Mashes and Strange Steams. It was ridiculous, and Will-O-Wisps. But that's what you get for using those moves, you know? Alright, in this battle we've got a bunch of Pokemon you don't normally see. We've got Crustle, which can be scary if it decides to Shell Smash up. We've got Sigilyph, which at times can run rampant, even in the RU tier, but Sigilyph overall is a very hit or miss Pokemon depending on what the opposition has. It has really scary options, but as you can see, for instance, my team has Metagross, which shuts down Sigilyph, and Umbreon, which completely destroys Sigilyph, generally speaking, just because Sigilyph usually likes to run a very especially offensive set, and Umbreon doesn't take anything from it. That being said, Sigilyph is also, I believe, banned from NU because down there they don't have any checks to Sigilyph, or at least not decent enough checks. So it just depends on the tier, because Sigilyph definitely has tools for success. So gotta watch after that. And then Poliwhirl. Poliwhirl is an interesting option to see here, and you could say, well, why don't I see a Poliwrath? Well, Poliwhirl is actually faster than Poliwrath, and so if this is a belly drum sweeper, then it'll get a lot faster than Poliwrath would. And so even though you lose a secondary stab of fighting, you want to be able to outspeed certain threats. And so this may be like a sub-Salac belly drum set, and you want to be able to outspeed a lot of Pokemon that Poliwrath would not be able to outspeed. And so that's probably why it's here. However, looking at my opponent's team, they don't have an electric immunity, so Raikou is a very easy and safe lead. It could be Stealth Rock, Crustle, or Metagross. And overall, no matter what they lead, even if it's Chandelure, I can just, Volt Switch with Raikou. And they're actually going to lead with Poliwhirl. Maybe they realize it doesn't do anything or something, I don't know. I'm just going to kill it turn 1. didn't have Focus Sash, so that's fine, out of the way. I'll go Flygon. Here I'm going to U-turn out into my Umbreon, because at this point I say, haha, I'm going to trap this with my Umbreon. It turns out to be the Cosmic Power set. They decide not to scout for Mean Look. If I had been Foul Play, maybe that would have been somewhat annoying, but it's not like they tricked me a Flame Orb, right? If they had tricked me a Flame Orb, then this burn would have been with me permanently, even if I had Heal Bell. But the burn, all it would have done would have been slightly nerf Foul Play. So maybe it does beat Umbreon 1v1 once you get enough boosts up, but not this set. And because they didn't scout for it, Umbreon actually completely destroys the Sigilyph. I would say this is one of the times where this Umbreon set really shows its worth, because normal Umbreon don't run this set. If the Umbreon is burned, you can get Cosmic Power boosts up, meaning that the Foul Play is going to do far less damage. The Taunt set in particular is quite strong against Sigilyph, because as you can see, Sigilyph has lots of PP on moves like Cosmic Power and Psycho Shift, and then it may have Roost or something last, and Foul Play would have been a lot more passive and we would have had to waste a lot more time wasting PP. But because I'm Taunt, I can limit them to only stored power. At this point they may have had Roost last, so my opponent decides not to waste time, or maybe their last move was something even worse, I don't know. So they decided to Cosmic Power there, and now they die to struggle. So good job Umbreon, that's one of the few times where it's actually going to do a lot of work, and it's very obvious. I'm going to go Heracross, I'm going to go Weezing, doesn't allow Guts to activate. They turn out not to be Guts, they don't have a Flame Orb at the very least, so I'm going to burn them. That's going to reduce their attack by quite a bit. At this point I can just Strange Steam, and they don't really have a good switch in, other than they could have gone Metagross, but they decided not to. And at this point they get confused, and my opponent decides that they're going to forfeit. So once again, Weezing showing its worth as a physically defensive Pokemon. As long as it hits its moves, it's actually quite good. And I think this was a really good showcase of the Mean Look Umbreon set putting in work. If that had been a normal Umbreon, it would not have beaten that Sigilyph particularly. Once it got burned, Foul Play would have been weaker, and you wouldn't have been able to beat it once it got a few Cosmic Power boosts. Of course, the Sigilyph only had stored power, and with that being said, it really had no business staying in on my Umbreon anyway, because it would have been committing to PP stalling me. But, you know, if I only have Wish Protect, those don't have that much PP, that'll match the PP of Cosmic Power, and then you've got Foul Play, which does have a decent amount of PP, but you probably have some other moves in the back that can accommodate for that, and you're not going to really be touching me that much, and Heal Bell only has 8 PP, so I think Sigilyph might be able to 1v1 Umbreon in the PP war, and the rest of my team would have maybe gotten beaten up by it. However, even stored power, Cosmic Power, Metagross isn't a great option. Against Metagross isn't a great option. I really don't think that Sigilyph was going to do much against my Metagross plus Umbreon. Should have been more like a Calm Mind set maybe, if it wanted to do more work. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that was a showcase of how Umbreon can put in work. Alright, we got one last game for you guys today. In this last video, my opponent has a really weird team composition. They've got a double Steel Psychic core with Metagross and Bronzong. And then they actually have 3 Psychics because they've got a Celebi. They've got double Ghost with Poltegeist and Mimikyu. And then they have a random Pangoro. Overall, some of the Pokemon can be pretty scary. Poltegeist is always threatening, and Mimikyu, again, can be threatening depending on team matchup. And Pangoro, if it has a good moveset and it plays it well, it can be pretty threatening as well. And then, you know, some of the other Pokemon are just sort of there. Overall, not really sure what my opponent's team was supposed to be going for, but it is, you know, still something we got to watch out for. So once again, they have no electric immunity, so that's pretty nice. I'm actually going to lead off with Flygon though, in case they decide to lead off with something maybe like Celebi. They lead off Poltegeist though. Usually you don't see people lead off with their Sweeper turn 1, but here we are. I'm going to go into Umbreon. Normally this should scare you out with Foul Play. I don't have Foul Play on this particular set, unfortunately, so I'm just going to have to start clicking Spite. I'm going to click Taunt first, that way they don't boost anymore. And now they're going to start clicking Giga Drain to get some health back, and all I can do is Spite. So if I had had foul play on this Umbreon, I would have immediately just won this matchup right here. And so I think Taunt was a bad move for this particular set. Here I'm going to rest up. If they wanted to here, they could Shell Smash up, but for whatever reason they decided not to. If they had Shell Smashed, they probably would have won right here. And at this point I was really regretting not having Taunt. But I can rest up and continue to stall this out. Here I need to Taunt so they don't Shell Smash up once they realize that that's what they should be doing. And I should live, but they crit me. And so that's fine, I guess. I'm going to go into Flygon just to get off a U-turn. If they're Focus Sash, I want to break that so I can go into something else to kill it. I'm going to go into Raikou here, and I'm going to just click Specs Thunderbolt because I need this gone. Good thing they were Psychic and not stored power there, because otherwise that would have been bad. Here we're going to go into Weezing. Weezing will beat Mimikyu, no problem. We're going to Swords Dance up, and SD up again. As I Will-O-Wisp them, fortunately we connect. And at this point, it's just a matter of taking down the Mimikyu. They're going to Shadow Sneak, I don't know why. And I'm going to Strange Steam them. Strange Steam and Sludge Bomb is sort of interchangeable. But if I can get a Confusion, well, why not? Play Rough here does more damage. I got a crit too, that helps. Still no Confusion, but you know, at least we're hitting our move. And they're going to Play Rough here. And Strange Steam will take out the Mimikyu. At this point, they're going to go into their Celebi. I need to switch out. I want to save this. I'm going to go for a Psychic. That does a healthy chunk, but overall I still win this matchup. Flamethrower hits both Celebi and all their Steel types coming in. I'm actually going to click Flamethrower again because I didn't feel like they were too threatening. But now I didn't want to switch out into my own Metagross. And at this point I can just click Meteor Mash or Earthquake or whatever I want. I'm going to click Earthquake. They actually sack the Metagross. Pangoro is going to come out. I have good answers to this. Weezing is a very good answer. They're going to click Knock Off. It does a good amount. They're definitely Choice Banded, I'm pretty sure. Go Bronzong here. It's pretty obvious, but I don't want to overpredict, so I'm just going to click Strange Steam. I'm going to click Will-O-Wisp here on the Bronzong. I don't know what they want to do to me. Even if they have Heavy Slam, it's not going to do too much once they're burned. But I'll switch now, see what's up. And I see that they're a Body Presser. So this is one that would have beaten my Umbreon, probably. Here, I can't probably hit them with Earthquake because they're almost certainly Levitate. So I'm just going to click the Meteor Mash. They realize they're not doing any damage, so they're going to switch into Celebi as I Meteor Mash again. And I actually get Attack Raise, which means I can 2-hit KO the Celebi. And they go for Shadow Ball. That is a lot of damage. So that's good to get that out of the way. And now they're going to Pangoro because at this point they sort of need to. I'm just going to sack this because I want to safe switch in. And at this point I can go into my Togekiss. As I click Flamethrower, I figured they're going to go into Bronzong, but they don't. I actually live because I got the burn, so Serene Grace coming in clutch. And I'm able to roost off the damage. At this point, Pangoro cannot touch me. If I'd gone for Air Slash and gotten the flinch, I guess that would have been nice. But getting the burn is just another way to winning. And Bronzong, because it's Body Press, it probably is not going to be Body Press plus Heavy Slam. I can just stay in and click Flamethrower at this point. Bronzong is going to go down to a couple Flamethrowers. Definitely was Levitate, not Heat Proof. And then the Pangoro, I can just Air Slash and that'll win the game. So in this last game, we can definitely see that Umbreon needs foul play. One of the main things Umbreon is supposed to do is beat Poltegeist 100% of the time. And the Poltegeist was not really threatened at all by the Taunt variety. So I think that the Mean Look Umbreon definitely needs to have foul play over Taunt, because it needs to be able to beat the Poltegeist. Or you need to have something else to beat the Poltegeist on your team, but Umbreon's whole job is to beat Poltegeist. So really, I think foul play is just necessary. As we saw in the previous game against the Sigilif, having Taunt can be extremely valuable. And so I suppose if you have answers to some of these other Pokemon, then that's fine. But overall, I think foul play is probably the most reliable answer that you can have for Umbreon. And then if you really just have to PP stall with a bunch of Cosmic Power nonsense, then you have to PP stall. But it's much better to do that than to lose to not having foul play. So at the end of the day, there's definitely a reason why people run the standard Umbreon with foul play, Wish, Protect, and Heal Bell. It's definitely a tried and true set. It hits so many things reliably, and I don't think that this set will even come close to competing with it. But I do think the Mean Look Umbreon would be a good niche option that goes beyond just a gimmick, right? We didn't see any bulky water types in today's game, right? There was no Melodics, no Seismitoads. I think those Pokemon especially are ones that will get beaten down by the Mean Look set. Pokemon like Poltegeist, Pokemon like Sigilyph, Reuniclus, they should never be staying in on Umbreon. Right, that one guy got greedy with the Focus Blast on the AV Reuniclus, and that worked in his favor at a point because they got a Spit F drop. And if they had continued to quick Focus Blast while I was asleep, maybe they could have done something with that. I'm not sure. But besides that, really, you should always be switching those out. However, the water types, you may not feel threatened, and so you'll stay in, and then you'll get trapped. And I think that would be really where the Mean Look set shines the most. Overall, though, I think that you have to have foul play Pokemon like Chandelure and Poltegeist. So I'm definitely going to recommend putting Foul Play over Taunt on this particular set, but I'll upload the team as it was when I played it, and so you can play around with it at that point. In any case, that's it for me today. I'll see you next time.